All right. Hey everyone, how are you all doing? I am back from a unplanned 2-week hiatus, and I put out a poll on YouTube and wanted to ask people what they wanted to see the most, and the overwhelming result. Oop, pardon me, that's my audio check going off, so I'm glad to hear that my audio is going. So anyway, I put out a poll on YouTube to see what people wanted to see the most, and as it turns out, I'm just becoming that Gundam guy. Nobody wants to see anything to do with video games or anything like that. Hey Ultro, good to see you. Sorry that you're feeling chilly. So yeah, the overwhelming majority of people voted that they wanted to see a sneak peek of the Gundam 5e, or Mobile Suit Gundam tabletop role playing game adaptation that I've been working on. They wanted to see the update, or at least a preview of it. Obviously, it's not entirely done, but Ultronimus in the chat here has played a major role in helping me get it sorted, as well as Legion and G1 Scorp, folks from the Discord server. So if you do want to stay up to date, the most up to date on Gundam 5e goings on, the best bet is to join the Discord server, which the link to which is in the description below. All right, so before I jump into everything, just want to wish you guys a good week. Hope you guys are having a good one. What's going on, Scorp? Good to see you in chat. Uh, it is of course Wednesday, and I apologize for the like I said, unplanned 2-week hiatus. It just had a lot of things going on and couldn't make the time for the stream. So I'm glad that I was able to get a lot of this update done in the meantime. So what we're going to do today, I figured would be a good exercise, is I'll go through some of the class and character creation updates. I won't go through everything piece by piece because there's still a little bit that's in flux. There's a little bit that still requires some TLC, but we are going to sort of practice creating a character, which I hope will help people. I think even in the rule set as it is currently, it's going to help people hopefully with that. There's been a lot of people who are either new to tabletop in general, or just don't know some of the generic terminology that floats around in the tabletop role playing space. And so, this is hopefully going to ease you into that whole process, and it'll serve as the basis of character creation going forward. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at the Google document that I've been working from. As you can see, it's so affectionately named Gundam 5e Update. So there are some things in here that I think are going to be very popular, some things that I think are going to be very unpopular, but I think that on the whole, this is going to be an improvement on the current system. And if you have difficulty reading the text on there, let me know. I can obviously bump up the size here. What if I bump it to like 166%? Yeah, that looks good. Hopefully you guys can read everything here. So there's going to be a little bit more to keep track of in certain respects, and there's going to be a little bit less to keep track of in other respects. So for instance, the system as it is right now didn't really account for out of mobile suit encounters. I had planned on basically creating, a role playing game that every single combat that occurred was going to be in a mobile suit. So there wasn't a whole lot of, it's like, okay, well, if your mobile suit gets shot down, there's rules for, targeting infantry personnel from a mobile suit and vice versa. So there's like a little bit of that, but the system was not designed with, personnel combat or, out of mobile suit encounters really in mind. So with that in mind, this whole update kind of came as a result of a few different things. So let me kind of rewind before we dive into the nitty gritty and talk about some of the motivations behind this sort of system reset, because that's really what it is. It honestly is a reboot of the entire system, and there's a lot of mechanics that are going to persist, and there's a lot that's going to be, you know, done away with. So, one of the issues that came up quite frequently is that mobile suit selection itself became very boring. And I take that, it is my responsibility. I take 100% of the blame on this, is that I was obsessed with trying to make sure that everything was balanced throughout, so that, if you're a level 1 player and you select a Gundam, and someone else is a level 1 player and they select a Zaku 1, or even, God forbid, a mobile worker, that your stats and your rough combat potential was going to be exactly the same. That was not the right approach to go with. Um, I I was very aggressive in balancing everything, so that basically, no matter what decision you made, it didn't matter, because at the end of the day, everyone was going to have about the same stats. You might have like a +1 or a plus or a -1 here and there, but by and large, mobile suit selection didn't matter. I didn't like that, and the community didn't like that. I say community. I hate communities. Okay, part of the reason that I even started this whole, YouTube channel and making my own tabletop games is because I hate tabletop communities. So I was like, well, I'm gonna start my own freaking community. And here I am saying like, oh, well, the community told me that I need to revise everything, so that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, mobile suit selection had gotten boring. The flip side of that, character classes, also boring. In an effort to aggressively balance all of the character classes, nobody was really special in any way. The infiltrator, obviously the, rogue analog, was incredibly overpowered, which, just like the rogue from 5e, incredibly overpowered. One of the things that I'm removing from that class is the whole, kind of skill monkey idea, right? So in AD&D, there was no rogue, it's the thief, right? So the idea of the sneak attack plus skill monkey actually made sense. But like, fast forward here, 60 years, and we're looking at a class that not only deals incredible amounts of damage, but also is a skill monkey. So I took the skill monkey component out because we actually have other classes that are going to fit that mold a little bit better. And you're going to see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. Um, so hopefully, between the new backgrounds, the new feats, the new classes, and the, I don't want to say simplification, because it's not. It's actually a complication of the mobile suit system. The game is going to feel a little bit more like a well-rounded sci-fi RPG as opposed to a Gundam RPG. And that was kind of where the direction was going. Oh, what's up, Zevi? What's up, Bruno? Jeff? So that's where we're gonna. The question is this still 5e? I would say it's roughly 5e, because there's some stuff that's gonna be very different, as you can see. Um, so because you're gonna be keeping track of both your pilot and your mobile suit separately instead of as one unit, the way that they are on the character sheet now, they are going to be separate. The mobile suits are going to have fixed armor points. They are going to have fixed armaments, as well as doing away with the loadout system, which, it worked as a balancing mechanic to make sure that certain mobile suits weren't equipped with tons of gear, but also, but it was very limiting in a way too, because then, you kind of felt like if a mobile suit had shoulder cannons, you had to drop its loadout, and that didn't necessarily make sense. Um, Oh, hey, thank you, thank you. Yes, it's going to be less of a 5e adaptation and more of its own system. So hopefully that is appealing to you guys. Um, oh, good, good. Let me go through the chat here and see what we've got here. Yes, it's going to be interesting. Thank you for the congratulations. I mean, we'll see how it goes once we drop all of these new features. Um, yes, Scorp has dropped some very interesting mobile suits, and yeah, it's not going to be 100% compatible with the old system. I don't necessarily think that's a problem because everything that's up there now on the website is going to stay. All of that stuff is going to continue to exist. I'm going to make sure that it's all still available. This is going to be just the new stuff going forward. And so, the website changes will reflect that once everything's done and we go ahead and make it live. So, um the most obvious change that you'll probably see right here is that we are going from 6 abilities or attributes down to 4. We're getting rid of, well, so because we have a class that's called engineer, it didn't make sense to have an ability score based around engineering. So instead, what we've got an ability score that represents physique, which is kind of a marriage of strength and constitution. It's going to determine a lot of your physical skill traits as well as your total hit points. We've got reflexes, which is your dexterity. This is very important for ranged combat as well as mobile suit combat, but it's not the only thing that's important in mobile suit combat. Intellect, which is kind of a marriage of, your wisdom, intelligence, and the engineering score from before, right? So it's going to deal with everything to do with repairing mobile suits to perception checks to history checks. That is your skill monkey ability. And then finally you have personality, which makes up for your cunning, your charisma, all of the sort of social and esoteric skills and abilities, which are going to prove more important, hopefully, going forward. That said, the skill list is going to change. And before I get into the skills, know that there's going to be a whole new character sheet coming out to reflect all of these changes. All right. Can definitely speak to dropping loadout for the integrated weapons. Yes. Excited to try new rule sets. Yes, Zevi, you definitely have one of the most consistent playtest styles because working one-on-one, you can work within that. Prep indeed. Well, I am glad that the chat is asking what score is attributed for new types, because without the Psyche score, as you know, there's no new type ability that's kind of your go-to new type ability. It is going to be a combination of both intellect and personality. And when we get into cyber new types, especially, that's going to be important because cyber new types take penalties to one or the other, your choice. But that's the trade-off for them having more powerful Psychomu attacks. So, hopping back into it, we've got yeah, what about new types? What about Raven? Yeah, new types are going to have some interesting stuff going on with them. The new type awakening ability, which is purchased via a feat, is still going to exist. It's just some of the ability score mods that are associated with that are going to change. And as I've gotten feedback on that stuff, some of those abilities that are granted to the new types are going to get nerfed a little bit. A little bit, not too much. I still think that they should be new types should feel special, right? Of course, every DM should be encouraged to, say, hey, we're not playing with new types. If that's your style. I know that some other games that are based on Gundam are just like, look, no new types at all. We don't even want to touch that stuff because it's messy. And I agree, it is messy. But if you're going to create a Gundam RPG, you have to make it available. So diving into the skills here, one of the most significant changes going into this is that combat is now delegated to skills as well. So you have personnel combat and you have mobile suit combat. Those are going to be two different skill sets. And so instead of being able to say, oh, I roll for my machine gun, but then I also roll for my mobile suit beam rifle, and they be you know, the same attack modifier, they're going to be different because they're going to be based on skills, and that's where your proficiency bonus is going to come into play. Oh yeah, 100%. So obviously you have the standard ones, athletics, and it's worth noting before I list out all these skills, it's worth noting that one of the early drafts of this was heavily based on Stars Without Number, which is another D20 role playing system that's a little bit more of an aggressive, gritty sci-fi system. When I sort of focus grouped it, that was not popular, for lack of a better word. Um, but I think that we reached a balance where we kind of pulled some things out of that I think are going to work really well here. So you'll notice that all of the italicized skills here in this list are actually your combat skills, right? So the combat skills, the only difference between those and say your other skills are that certain backgrounds actually allow you to pick specifically, you can add one additional combat skill or you can add one additional skill of your choice. Any, doesn't matter. So going into it, you've got athletics, which is a pretty standard D&D 5e one, bladed weapons, which is defined as stab in Stars Without Number, uses bladed weapons, knives, swords, that sort of thing, which in Gundam tends to come up more often than you'd think. um, yes, there is a MS perception ability now. So you've got computers, you've got deception, demolition, hand-to-hand combat, which is your unarmed fist combat, heavy arms, which is your bazookas, RPGs, things like that are actually going to be able to deal damage to mobile suits, because what you're going to find is that the mobile suits do not suffer damage at all from small arms fire, which is, things like handguns, shotguns, rifles, that sort of thing. History, insight, investigation, those are all D&D 5e equivalents. Leadership is a new one, which, is similar to persuasion, but specific to what I would call, allied persuasion, right? And it affects your ability to do certain things at the helm of a battleship. Medicine, first aid, that sort of thing. Perception, piloting. So in one of the earliest iterations of this Gundam adaptation, there was a skill called like anti-G straining maneuver, which was recommended to me by a subscriber. And, that was your athletics, but for a mobile suit. That's what your piloting skill is, right? So if athletics determines your ability as a person to jump across a chasm, piloting is going to represent your ability to navigate a debris field, or like, thread your core fighter through a, thin, um, through the Grand Canyon or something like that. Repair is, which is your first aid, but for mobile suits. Small arms, like I said, handguns, rifles, shotguns, that sort of thing. Stealth is your stealth on foot. Survival, your ability to find food and hunt and that kind of good stuff. Persuasion is obvious. Here's where we get into your mobile suit skill sets. So you have your basic melee, your advanced melee, your basic ranged, your advanced ranged. This is going to cover things like, so your basic melee is your heat hawks, your beam sabers, advanced melee being things like beam lances and hyper hammers, all the weird esoteric weapons. Basic ranged weapons are going to cover things like machine guns, beam spray guns, that sort of thing. Advanced range weapons are going to be your beam sniper rifles, your what's another good example? Raketine bazooka. Um, let's see. So beam. Oh, okay. Let me address the chat here a little bit. Beam melee would fall into just So it depends. A beam saber would fall under basic melee, but then like something like a javelin, a beam javelin would fall under advanced melee. That weapon that the Nemo uses in Unicorn. Mobile suit skills are interchangeable for other mobile suits. Yes, indeed. They are they're cross compatible across all, sort of combat craft. It'd be funny to whip out a Glock and kill the Gundam, but not realistic. Indeed. And the that is why almost all mobile suits, combat craft, mobile armors are immune to small arms fire. You would need, if you are, in personnel combat, which, like I said, you're gonna have personnel combat, which is your infantry, and then you've got, you know, I guess mobile weapons combat is probably what I would call it. That's your mecha. That's gonna cover mobile armors. It's gonna cover combat craft. It's gonna cover mobile suits, and those mobile weapons are unaffected by small arms fire. So, uh, special weapons, which again falls under, which I think would cover probably the Gasha hammer gun. Um, Special weapons kind of encapsulates anything that's not cleanly defined as a melee weapon or a ranged weapon. So it could be remote weapons, things like the quasi Saikamu weapons, wire guided remotes, um, chain mines, things like that. Saikomu weapons is exclusively bits, funnels, fin funnels. And then MS sensor is your stealth perception for mobile suits, which, once you get into the classes, you'll see that there are classes that are specifically designed around detecting mobile suits, because we are introducing a whole new set of perception checks revolving around things like thermal detection, sonar detection, and radar detection. What could I do here to use a weapon from a different faction? So, what I would say is many of the weapons that are listed in the weapons list, they're not specific to model numbers, because there's a lot of things that, the model number differences probably wouldn't be necessarily that different. You could, because there are only so many levers you can pull when it comes to balancing out, like, well, what makes this machine gun better than this machine gun? Well, this one does 1d6 damage and this one does 1d4. Well, there's like 11 different machine guns available. So really, I narrowed it down to the core types of machine guns, and so then at that point it's just flavor, right? So if you're using the bullpup machine gun from a Zaku versus the bullpup machine gun from a GM, that's your call. Like, there's no difference between them as far as damage is dealt for the purposes of this game. It's just to keep it simple. All made by Anaheim anyway. Oh man. All right. Yeah, so I mean, I try to make it so that most of those types of things are handled by flavor text, as opposed to, getting into real nitty-gritty type stuff. Hey, thanks for the follow. Now we are going to talk mobile suit proficiencies. This stuff has not changed. The mobile suit proficiencies, how it affects what stat boosts you're going to get for having proficiency in particular types of mobile suits, is going to change, but we'll get into that when we talk about mobile suits. As you can see, we've added both mobile armors, which I know there's a lot of people that are excited about mobile armors coming to the system, playable mobile armors anyway, and combat craft. Combat craft covers tanks, trucks, fighter planes, all of the jobber type materials, or the vehicles. So, getting into the actual classes, and again, I'm not going to go through these piece by piece because there's a lot that still needs to change. Suffice to say that these are going to be the core classes going forward. We might add some, we might tweak some, but this is going to be sort of the foundation of character creation. And fortunately, like I said, by removing that new type element, by removing new type classes and making them a feat, you can do away with them. And then this system is perfectly acceptable to play, a Seed or a Double O campaign, things like that. And you don't even have to worry about any of the new type nonsense. So, we have our artillery, which hasn't changed much. You're going to have your your sniper type of artillery and your crowd control type of artillery. This is balanced using firing stances, which can be changed, I think, as a standard action. And depending on your firing stance, that is going to give you certain abilities based, you know, targeting specific types of enemies. Um, Going down here, your brawler is going to be replacing the gorilla, mostly because we're going to be using the term gorilla in other contexts later on in the system. So, your gorilla is your sort of tank as well as DPS, melee DPS, I should say, and it's most akin to the fighter class. Nothing much has changed with that apart from adding the addition of grit points, which can be used to strengthen specific maneuvers that the brawler can commit to. Moving on down here, we've got the engineer, which was a popular class recommended, which, several people kind of collaborated to create the perfect engineer class, and not much has changed, honestly. It is both a support class and how do I describe it? You can create mobile suit upgrades, you can create turrets, you can create things that deal damage over time, things like that. It's a very versatile class, and I think that it's going to be even more important in this setting because the engineer class is going to have more skills associated with it. It's going to have more uses outside of just mobile suit combat. Keep it going. Infiltrator, as I said, Infiltrator's not going to change much. Let me see here. There we go. You're going to get your sneak attack bonus. You are going to get access to, amphibious mobile suits earlier than other classes would. I am removing certain things, like you are not going to get as many skills or expertise. You still get your cunning action. You still get, your dash, dodge, disengage, that sort of thing. But you're not going to get the extra skill bonuses because you're already dealing extra damage. And and I forgot to even mention, hit dice are going to be a thing now going forward. Each class is going to have their own hit dice specific to the pilot. Mobile suits are going to have their own armor dice, which is, again, like I mentioned, there's going to be more to keep track of in certain respects. So, for instance, your character's going to have a hit die and your mobile suit's going to have a hit die, but you have less ability scores that you have to manage. So, and because we didn't reduce the number of ability score increases that you get throughout your career, let's say, going up to level 20, you'll actually be able to boost your ability scores much higher than you would in vanilla 5e. All right. And there's a little bit of like swashbuckler. Some of the swashbuckler subclass features have been given to the infiltrator, so hopefully that will make up for the lack of skill monkeyness. Officer, which was a class originally called Commander, submitted by Jagan. This is it's kind of a blend of your Battlemaster type fighter and your Bard. So you have a pool of command dice that you can offer as inspiration, or you can use it to power up specific battle maneuvers. It's a very interesting class that I think you could play a variety of different ways. you could use it as like, a ship captain, and you never even get in a mobile suit, but you use your abilities to kind of to to buff your party and to inspire them. Or the flip side of that is you can lead with your sword, and you can be the guy in the Zaku 1 that's out ahead of the pack and doing all these cool maneuvers. So I think it's a very interesting and fluid class. It's not as durable as, say, your brawler, but like I said, it's a little more interesting. And those are all of your maneuvers that are listed in there. The operator. Now, this is one that I was speaking about earlier. Because there are going to be new rules regarding line of sight, regarding perception, and your ability to see mobile suits that aren't, just clearly in your line of sight, regarding, things like sonar thermal detection and radar detection. The operator revolves entirely around both detecting undetectable enemies by using sonar detection, by using thermal detection, as well as obscuring the party from enemy detection. So you have things like radar jamming and, Minovsky particle dispersion that is going to help, prevent the party from being detected, and you can have like ambushes and things set up. So that's pretty exciting there. It is definitely, if you couldn't gather from that, it is definitely a support class. Um, and it is not based around mobile suit combat. It is probably specialized entirely around combat craft. So, utilizing the benefits that come with piloting something like a hover truck as opposed to a mobile suit. And finally, this we've been going back and forth on the naming conventions for this particular class, but the helmsman kind of covers, I think, the broadest range of what we're trying to do. So the helmsman is based on the Slegger Law style character. The pilot that is not a mobile suit pilot, but focuses on tanks and fighters and things like that. Um, they specialize in combat craft, and as a result, the class features allow them to do special things in combat craft that other classes can't, which makes them viable as, as pilots of those specific combat craft. Because if you look at the stats for like a core fighter versus, even just something like a Zaku 1, Zaku 1's gonna scorch it. But using the helmsman class, you can be Slegger and you can go around slapping women on ships and not get in trouble for it. No, no, no. You'll probably still get in trouble for that. But you will be able to fly directly into a big Zam and be a big hero. Um, it is akin to the officer class in a few ways, but again, it really is based around not using mobile suits, which we don't have any other class that really does that the same way. Now, we're going to get into another exciting change. Since those are your, what is it, 6 or 7 core classes: infiltrator, officer, operator, helmsman, artillery, engineer. 6 core classes. I don't know why I always forget. Um, so the backgrounds are going to be a little bit different. There's 20 available backgrounds. Obviously, this is one of those things where it's like you can talk to your game master if you want to add an additional background that does something different. But these 20 are going to have various benefits that come with using them. So let's get into that. Obviously, you can roll on this handy dandy table to get a random background if you want to. I always encourage random character generation because, it really trains those improv muscles and trains you on how to be a little bit more creative with what you're given, right? I think that true creativity comes from playing within the bounds of a particular game, right? Cooper says hi. Um, so, you know, if I just gave you a ball and said, "Hey, go play a game," and it's like, "Well, what are the rules of the game?" I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. You go play your game, have fun, do your thing. It's not a very fun game because you don't have rules, right? I think that the reason that people find soccer entertaining is because you can't use your hands, right? It's like, "Hey, here's the out of bounds. You can't use your hands. Now go put this ball in that net." And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have to get real creative with how I use my feet and my head and stuff. Exactly. That is where I'm at with tabletop role playing games. Is if you don't have, you know, if you don't, pray to RN Jesus, or you have like some formulas, some algorithms that kind of keep you in bounds, then it's like, why even bother playing, right? Like, well, I just want to have a Zaku that I strap a hyper mega particle cannon to the back of. Okay, but then like, you know, what's entertaining about that? So like I said, you can roll random, and I definitely encourage rolling random backgrounds. Each background comes with a specific amount of starting gila. It's really not going to be enough to buy anything. You're not going to be able to buy a mobile suit or a mobile suit weapon, but you're going to be able to buy extra gear. Obviously, if you're an aristocrat, you're going to make more money than a student. And then going into it, you are actually going to get bonus skill proficiencies on top of the skill proficiencies that come with your class. So, say for instance, if you are a debutante, the daughter of a vice minister, or, um, Paris Hilton, you are going to get bonus proficiencies in the skills of persuasion and insight. In addition, you get a bonus feature that many of them are going to give you a bonus feature that's going to help you in personnel combat. Most of them are going to give you more of a socially beneficial feature. So, for instance, when you look at the debutante, you get the bonus feature of socialite. When you're not in disguise, which is a very specific scenario, right? You are immediately recognized everywhere you go. Friendly characters will aid you in any non combat scenario, as well as granting you advantage on personality skill checks made against them. That means if you are trying to intimidate a bouncer to get into a club, you have advantage on that skill check. If you are trying to, if you're trying to haggle with a trader and get a better price on something, you're going to have advantage on that skill check. The flip side of that is that people who are hostile towards you, people who hate your family, for instance, people who had a really bad experience, who gave the worst Yelp review you've ever seen on a DoubleTree hotel, are going to come at you and say, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot this person," or more likely, you're just going to have disadvantage on personality checks against them. If, a Kardashian were trying to convince me to give them $100, I'd probably tell them to piss off. And that's where the debutante feature hits you. Um, so let's see. We probably got some other fun examples. One of the things, so the reason that I'm being very specific about the abilities that the backgrounds give you is that in D&D 5e, for instance, the backgrounds give you these sort of vacuous features that I think most DMs don't leverage very well. Um, you know, things like, "Oh, you're the folk hero." So that means that people recognize you everywhere you go, and like sometimes they'll help you out. And it's like, well, but what does that mean, right? Like, what do you mean sometimes people will recognize you and help you out? With all of these features, I tried to be very specific about the scenarios where it's going to benefit, where it's going to be a detriment, and using specific numbers. Your merchant, for instance, has the bonus feature of haggle. When buying or selling from any merchant that is not hostile towards you, it's a very specific scenario. So if you're talking to someone who you like or someone who you don't know at all, you get a 15% discount, or a 10%, or you earn 10% more on things that you sell to them. That is a very concrete benefit that you can calculate, that you can rely on. You know what I mean? Um, let's see some other examples. Oh, here you go. Your bureaucrat. If this were regular D&D 5e, they would probably say something like, "Oh, well, you're a bureaucrat, right? So you can get extra goods from officials of the government." What does that mean? Well, the bonus feature of the bureaucrat is grease the wheels. Once per long rest, you may roll on the requisition table, which is below here, and you use your connections to acquire valuable goods and services. This could be immensely helpful to a party because now it's weighted, obviously. You're more likely to get cheaper goods, but you have a chance to get a mobile suit or vehicle up to 45,000 gila in worth. So it's a very specific and very practical ability that these backgrounds give you. And like I said, every single one is going to come with 2 bonus skill proficiencies and 1 bonus feature, as well as your bonus amount to starting Gila. So, that is your backgrounds, your classes. Like I said, we're not going to go into detail about every specific class and everything like that. Like I said, there's a lot of knobs that we still need to turn, a lot of proofreading that still needs to be done. But I also have a rough draft of our character sheet that we're going to be using going forward. And you know me, I'm pretty anal about, design and making sure that things are both functional as well as beautiful. And this isn't quite there yet, but there is going to be a Google Docs version of the sheet as well as a PDF version. Because I know that a lot of people like using Google Docs for various reasons. For various reasons. And so if I make a Google Docs version, people can then of course make a copy and they can keep that, local to their own Google Drive and things like that. So anyway, hopping into it, let's go ahead and just kind of create a character because mobile suit because you don't have to worry about picking a mobile suit when you create a character anymore, and you don't have to worry about a lot of these calculations. For instance, before we calculated armor points based on your character level and based on your engineering modifier. That is gone. The armor points are going to be a fixed value across mobile suits. It is a very balanced and fair value. You're going to see some variety in total armor points available. Evasion is going to have it's going to be your base, mobile suit evasion plus your reflexes modifier if you are proficient in that type of mobile suit. So that's why the proficiency tag system is going to hang around. Um but yeah, without the loadout, you don't have to worry about loadout. That's going to be handled by weapon slots, which, because mobile suits and combat craft are going to come with fixed armaments, you're not going to have to worry about buying things like Vulcans or shoulder mounted cannons, you know what I mean? So a lot of the let me let me think of the most political way to phrase this. Um, so a lot of the complaints that exist about, like, well, why can't a gun cannon have as many weapons as the Gundam? Before that was used as a balancing mechanic, right? It was, well, the gun cannon has cannons equipped to its shoulders, so it's going to have a slightly lower loadout, but that's because the armor points are going to be roughly the same as the Gundam. And it's like, well, no. We're gonna do away with that. I think that by using fixed armor point values, by using just raw stats, you're going to have a lot more levers to play with in terms of making mobile suits feel more interesting and more unique without having to, you know, without having to nerf them and without having to add ridiculous features that are just so absurdly specific that they don't apply to anything. Yes, exactly. Fixed. Oh, just like need my table here. Fixed weapon. Sorry, not fixed weapon damage, because weapon damage is going to continue to scale, but fixed armor points are the most significant change to the system, and I think that that is for the better. Now, weapon damage is going to scale slightly. But like I said, we're going to deal with that when we get to the mobile suits, which is a whole other can of worms, believe me. So let's go through the sort of just the exercise of creating a character. It's not going to take long because there's not as much to do. And we're not going to do anything like inventory or weapons, but you are going to have things like weapons, body armor, Kevlar vests that your character can wear so that when you are in out of mobile suit combat, you have higher evasion speeds and things like that. So let's say my character's name is going to be Klaus Obermeyer. Yes, I'm going to be Xeon, obviously. I'm going to be a Xeon infiltrator. Well, now you guys get to see what a terrible speller I am. And this is why it takes me so long to make these updates. Let's see. What background do you think I should go with here? I'm thinking I'm gonna be law enforcement. I'm gonna be a beat cop here. I probably should have made a copy of this before I started filling it out because I just realized that it's um that this is my master copy and I'm gonna have to go back and erase all of this. All right. Thank you, Sky God. I'm pretty excited about this too. Now, HP is going to be calculated the same way, and because we don't have to worry about damage scaling, your HP is going to be a fixed value as well, because all you're going to do is take your... Oh, well, I suppose it would help if I roll some ability scores. I've got my D6s here. Okay, look, I'm not even going to play with you guys. I am going to show you this because I don't want you to accuse me of cheating. That is indeed 2 6s and a 4. As you know, when you're rolling your stats, you roll 4d6, drop the lowest. So we just rolled ourselves a 16. We're going to set our physique to 16, and our ability modifier as a result is going to be a +3. Let's go ahead and get our reflexes. All right, we've got a 5, a 2, a 4, and a 3. So that is going to give us, what, 12? Right? 3 is 8. Yeah, 8 and 4. So that is going to give us a +1 modifier to our reflexes. Intellect. Oh. Oh yeah, do you need me to scroll a little bit? It doesn't help that I'm rolling dice on my on my trackpad here. All right, we've got a 4, 4, and 3. Oh, somebody who's better at math, do that for me. 8 and 3 is 11. So we got a 0. And our personality. That actually fits for a cop. All right, we've got a 6, 6, 3, so 12, 13, 14, 15. A +2 to our personality. So yeah. And drop my dice. So that means that our hit points are going to be 10 plus 3 for our physique, so 13 out of 13. Our proficiency bonus, obviously as a level 1 character, is going to be +2. Our evasion rate. Let's see. All right. Here's the thing. We are going to open up a new window because this part I'm not ready to share with you guys yet. Sorry, but I'm not quite ready to share with you some of the actual items that we are creating because there's going to be, like I said, a new set of items. You're going to have things like body armor, a whole set of weapons available, not only to mobile suits but also to personnel. So let's see. If I set it up so that I'm wearing combat armor, that is going to give us a +2 to our evasion. So we've got 1 from our reflexes, 2 from our combat armor, and 10. So that is going to give us a total personal evasion. Like I said, this is for personnel combat only. Let's see. I have to scale the point by system. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You are going to want to scale the point buy system down by approximately 4 points. So like for instance, if you do 27 points to spend, I think it's so like do you do the 27 or do you do the 72? Because if you do the 72, you're probably going to want to drop it by about 8. So drop it down to like 66. Because remember, you're just accounting for 2 separate. Oh no, you're actually gonna want to do it by like 10. But that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. I will definitely factor that into. Uh, I'll definitely factor that in because I will go ahead and set up a point buy system specifically for this. Because, like you said, if you use a 72 points point buy system, it's not gonna work for 4 ability scores. Your initiative is +1, so it's going to be the 1d20 +1. Walk speed, that's not changing. That's going to be 10 decameters. Your saving throws. So let's see. If I'm an infiltrator, let's hop back into our classes here and see what our proficiency is. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in reflex saves. I mean, obviously. You'd think I would know this stuff like off the top of my head. Yeah, saving throws is reflexes, hit die 4. So our hit die is 1d4. Put that down there below our hit points. Saving throws is going to be 1 plus our proficiency bonus. So our reflexes saves are going to be +3. Our physique saves are going to be +3. Our intellect saves are going to be +0, and our personality saves are +2. Obviously, we don't need to worry about death saves just yet. As far as our background ability, let's go ahead and hop back down to law enforcement and see what we've got here. I'm pretty sure it's stop resisting, which is bonus on grapple checks. Okay, I didn't call it stop resisting. I called it restraining maneuver, but still, it's a bonus on grapple checks. And we'll just go ahead and paste that in. Okay, so you start everybody at 10 and then do 27 to. Yeah, no, but like I said, when this is official, I will put out a specific, here is how many points you get. All right. So as an infiltrator, we are going to have what's a good we'll do general and amphibious MS. We will mark that we have proficiency in. We probably only need one of those. Now again, the PDF version is going to auto-calculate these things for us, but as you know, skill bonuses. Actually, let's take a look and see. We do get proficiency in small arms and investigation. So, small arms, we are going to get a +3, and investigation, we are going to get a +2, because that would be our proficiency bonus +0 to intellect, because we've got rocks for brains. Bladed weapons is going to be a +1. Actually, anything that is reflexes that is not a proficient skill. Oh, whoa. Hey now. Easy with all this copy pasting. You're going crazy on me. So we're going to go into our, there it is. And reflexes. I'm going to go in and add the class skills here in just a second, but I figured it'd be good to get our base, our bases in first. All of our intellect skills are going to be a +0. And let me know in the comments below if you would prefer this to be a Google Sheets document instead of just a Google Doc. It would be a little bit more tricky to print, but at least all of your form fields, I could set up formulas to calculate those things out for you. I recently discovered that my absolute favorite thing in the world is actually writing math equations and algorithms. So if you guys would prefer to have a algorithmically based auto calculation system, let me know because I enjoy making them. Let's see. But stop resisting really does work. Yes, it does. Yes, the PDF version will have a tick box for the proficiency and skills. It didn't make sense to have it on here because, you know, like I said, there's no auto calculation. I appreciate you asking whether or not it's easier for me. Honestly, um, I am more interested in making something that is easy for everyone to use as opposed to what's easiest for me. Because let's face it, that is what is most enjoyable for me, is making a product that people can use and that people get value out of. It would be a waste of my time if I were to create something that people didn't get a benefit from. Not exactly sure why some of these so like some of these are 6-point font and some of them are 8-point font. So let's go ahead and just set them all to 8-point font. There we go. Quick maths. If you're asking, definitely prefer automated maths. Me too. Me too. So the tabletop role playing game that I am working on for myself is actually a low math game. I want to make sure that it is something that people can play without doing any kind of extra math. In fact, it uses custom D6s that you know, it's kind of like Star Wars FFG where you have custom dice where it's just you either succeed or you fail. If there's a mark on it, good. If there's not a mark, bad. Now you can play with a regular D6. The flip side of that is that if you roll a 4, 5, or 6, that's your win. If you roll a 1, 2, or 3, that's a lose. Now, but that's neither here nor there. I'll talk about that system in a later video. Let's see. Yeah, 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 me and I hate English as much as we hate math. Let me put it that way. um, so let's look at the skills that. So we've got our small arms and investigation from our law enforcement background. We've got our stop resisting, uh, copy and paste it in there. Let's go and take a look at what skill proficiencies we get from the infiltrator class. Obviously, we're going to want to take a proficiency in some kind of mobile suit combat, right? Um, so combat skills that we are going to get proficiencies in: blade weapons, small arms, basic melee, advanced melee, and basic ranged. So let's hop back into our. We're going to go ahead and make it 3 for 3 and 3. I think it said bladed weapons, correct? Blade weapons, small arms, basic ranged, and basic melee. And we already got our small arms from law enforcement. So there we go. We got a few extra skill bonuses. And then we get to choose an additional 2 from athletics, intimidation, investigate, perception, piloting, survival, and MS sensor. I'm going to go ahead and make an edit on the fly here because you know what's missing from this list? Bonus points to anyone who gets it. Mm-hmm. Oh, will you be integrating any of your developed systems into this, i.e., straying further away from 5e? Uh, so we're definitely going to be straying further away from 5e, with each update for sure. Uh, yeah, there you go. Deception's another good one that probably needs to be in there. But yeah, stealth should be an obvious. But like I said, that's why I didn't go through point by point on these classes because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be tweaked and corrected. So, for instance, stealth, we're going to go ahead and add our proficiency bonus to, and we're going to go ahead and add it to perception as well. Yeah, I think that looks good. Now, we've got our hit die, we've got our skill proficiencies. Let's go ahead and add our special abilities. So class features, we want our sneak attack 1d6. Obviously that's going to change as you level up, but that is it. That character creation down to what? 15, 25 minutes because we're removing the mobile suit component from it. If you guys want, and I'll take a vote in the chat here. You let me know if you guys want to see a little bit of the mobile suits. I feel like the answer is going to be yes. Now, I'll warn you, it's not much to look at right now, but it does exist because there's still a lot that needs to be tweaked. All right, so I'm going to share with you some of the mobile suit stats. Like I said, incomplete. This is probably the least complete part of this whole update, but it'd be a nice way for us to close out the stream. And like I said, there's our character, right? Klaus Obermeyer, the infiltrator, Xeon cop. Um, you know, good at sneaking and stabbing. That said, let's take a look at this updated mobile suit list. So, as you can see, this is all just a Google sheet. Well, that's not good. Let me make sure that I scale this down so that you guys can actually see everything that's on here. Boom, boom, boom. So obviously you can see in column B there that you've got your sizes, you've got your tags, which include things like combat craft. Okay. So we're going to, obviously, because we have classes that are based around using combat craft, there's going to be more combat craft available. Things like your public, the fan, the gattle, all of those garbage little units that you would shoot down in an instant if you were playing, what's a good game example? Battlefield Record 0081. If you were on that mission where you have to shoot down 6 Samson trucks, well, now you have some Samson trucks to shoot down. uh Scrolling into it, obviously you can see the cost column is left blank because the costs are going to be recalculated here soon based on the new sort of balancing system. What we're looking at in terms of armor points is you're going to be looking at an armor point value that is going to be a fixed value between 12 and like 105. Some mobile suits in late UC are going to be much higher than that, but everything's going to fall within like a 75 to 80 point window. And, some mobile suits are going to be trash. Let's be honest. Some of them are trash, and some of them are going to be great. And you're going to pay for that in cost, and as well as, your ability to actually pilot them, because the evasion rates are still calculated based on whether or not you're proficient in that mobile suit. Now, because proficiency is tied to a downtime activity instead of a feat, it's not so much a tax on, using those mobile suits. But you do have to invest some time in it. Your DM has to agree to it and say, yes, you are proficient in using Gundams now. Let's see. Aircraft balls, mobile armor. Oh my, yes, indeed. There will be mobile armors added to this list as well. So, the GM Guard Custom, that's a very specific option. I think the only reason it's referred to as a general is because it's based on the GM Sniper, which is a general purpose mobile suit. And it has the identical stats as the GM Sniper Custom compared to like, the GM Sniper 2. But I anticipate lots of specific debates about specific units, because I'll be honest, I used an algorithm to calculate all of these armor points, and I'm going to use an algorithm to calculate all of the evasion scores as well. And I'll be honest, some of the values that I got make me very angry. um, let's see. Yeah. No, Zam time will definitely be in place. Um and of course this is just our Earth Federation list. We've got our 1-year war Xeon list, which has again an absurd amount of mobile suits. We've got even Scorponok has contributed things like the Goof combined test type, which gives the Xeons an opportunity to have a core block system, right? You get a core block, but it's a DOP. And then we've got our AUG list, we've got our Titans list, we've got our Axis Xeon list, we've got our Londo Bell list, sleeves / Neo Xeon, we've got our Vist, and we've got oh nope, that's my equations. I've got an extra table that's just nothing but equations for calculating out things like mobile suit stats, like over the course of various levels. So that is my sneak peek on mobile suits. Well, see, now because I messed with my window, my thumbnail here is all askew. So let's see. The crazy stuff is at the bottom. Indeed it is. Definitely big Zam time is coming up. Stuff that you've never even heard of. Indeed. We still have not added the GM Juggler, which is that's a fault on my part. We will be adding the GM Juggler, obviously. So I hope you guys have gotten a kick out of this sort of sneak peek at the upcoming system update. Definitely let me know your comments, questions, concerns down in the comments below so that I know what I need to sort of address going forward. Obviously, there's some typo issues. There's some things that need to be tweaked before we go forward. But I think that overall, even I have some complaints with the way things are shaping up here, but I think that it's going to be more enjoyable for people in general, and that's ultimately the goal, is to make it as accessible and enjoyable to the casual fan, which I know the thing is that most Gundam fans are not necessarily like TTRPG fans. And so bridging that gap is going to be a very big challenge. And so using 5e as sort of the the pivot, if you will, was always going to be the best method of doing that, since most people are at least roughly familiar with D&D 5e, at least in current year. But I think that going forward, it left us very, very handcuffed in terms of what we could do with it. And I think that by adopting a system that's more of a generic sci-fi role-playing system with mobile suits, it's going to allow people to do a little bit more of what they want to do, as opposed to a system that is, hey, this is D&D 5e, but with mobile suits. Let's see. Are there any plans to incorporate official stats for alternate universes? Yes, there are, actually. We actually do have lots of solid AU stat blocks that are going to be, once the new update is done, at least for UC, then at least we'll have a basis to go off of. And again, with the fixed armor points and fixed evasion rates and things like that, it's gonna be so much more easy to adapt AU mobile suits to this system. Let's see. Same here. Yes, but after we finish the UC content. Yes, Scorp knows what's up. If it's any motivation, this TTRPG is how I hope to get a few friends into Gundam in general. Well, hey, thanks, Kazoo. I hope that they are enjoying it. Most of the people that I've played with, I'm the big Gundam nerd in my D&D group. So getting them into this was like, it's like, oh yeah, we remember Gundam Wing back in the 90s, guys. Remember Toonami? Like, yeah, let's do a Gundam RPG. And I was like, this is not that. This is a little different. Can't wait. Hope that I might be the only one interested, but my group has been running Gundam X and After War Universe. I love Gundam X, and After War era is probably like in my top. It's definitely my top 3 as far as like alternate universes that I would want to adapt, because for me it's going to be UC, it's going to be Turn A, and then After War Gundam X. Gundam Mad Max. Yeah. Witness me. Putting together my first campaign for friends that covers most of the UC and some shameless rip-off additions like The Expanse. Awesome. Hey, no, thank you for being a part of it. Again, I'm sorry that this update has taken so long, and thank you to Ultronimus Legion and G1 Scorponok for contributing so heavily to the nitty-gritty parts of it. Like I said, it's been very difficult to find that perfect balance. And again, I take 100% of the blame for the current system being boring or being too vanilla, because I balanced this system into the ground. I really did. And that's what this whole update is all about. It is all about bringing more fun to the game and bringing more sort of, like I said, levers to play with, knobs to play with, that are going to make things feel a little more unique and feel a little more special. I want your mobile suit choice to feel special, and currently it doesn't. So that's what this is all about. Oh, hey, what's up, Andrew? No, I have not watched Dune yet. But then you know me, I was never a big Dune guy. I need to ask Eddie about it, because Eddie was the Dune guy. He was the one that always said, "Oh, well, Star Wars is just a ripoff of Dune," and I was like, "Is it though?" Because one is a lot more successful than the other. Let's see. At least that's my goal. I'm always glad to help. Hey, thanks, Scorp. Still want to make art. I will do for free. Zevi, you are a fantastic artist, and I will accept any contributions that you want to make. But like I said, it pains me to to accept things for free. So, you and I will have to talk personally about what we can work out. Depends on how fast my players kill all the important people. Yes, that was 100% Eddie. Hey, you remember the college days. Well, anyway, I need to go and feed these dumb dogs before they bite my leg off. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me this evening and kind of walking through these updates. Like I said, if there's anything that you feel was glaring, like a glaring issue from that. Obviously, earlier when I shared the document, like, because I had copy pasted the class tables, there was like a sneak attack bonus for every class. Not the case. Operators, engineers, they're not going to get a sneak attack bonus. So, yeah, I fixed that. But there are any things that you are looking for that don't feel like are going to be addressed by the new system? If you're intimidated by having a 4 ability score versus a 6 ability score system, do let me know. And like I said, I listen to all feedback. I might not necessarily respond to all feedback, but I do listen to all feedback, even the ones that call me a bitch. So if you must, do so. uh but yeah, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so, we will be making all of these new changes official. Like I said, this is just the character changes, and you saw a brief preview of the work that needs to be done on the individual mobile suit statting for the UC. But like I said, that's going to make statting for all of the AU mobile suits so much easier, because you're not dealing with trying to make mobile suits feel special just with a special feature. You have things like fixed armor point values, you have fixed armaments, things like Vulcan guns, grenade launchers, things like that are built into the mobile suits. You've got, a lot of different sort of levers to play with to make mobile suits feel unique. And that's what I'm looking forward to the absolute most. Ba, 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 ba. You and me both, Zevi. We've both been waiting to play again for the longest time. If I can get a lot of work done this week on it, then we might be looking at as early as next weekend. But I'm thinking it's probably going to be closer to Christmas time, just because of making sure that I get all the artwork done and all that stuff put into the new website format and stuff, and making sure that I save all the old stuff and put it cleanly. I know that it actually pains me right now that some of the old content is kind of just dumped on one page instead of organized in such a way that it's useful. So I do want to make that more useful to people. So again, that is going to be an issue. And then of course, what I think most people are going to be most excited about is that this core rulebook is going to be its own PDF again. We are going back to the PDF format now that we are reaching a point where things are kind of settling into their final form. So yeah, we're going to have a PDF version available again instead of just the website. So hopefully people are going to appreciate that a little bit more. So anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this update. It's been fun for me to kind of share this with you. I've been kind of like keep playing my cards close to the vest. So, sorry if I haven't been as responsive as I could have been, sharing some of these new details. But again, I didn't want to kind of show too much of my hand as far as the update went. So it's been nice to actually finally get this stuff off my chest. Hope you guys have a great evening, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, leave them in the comments below. And if I don't drop a video well, not tomorrow, but if I don't drop a video in the next few days, then I will at least see you again next Wednesday for just some chill video game streaming, maybe some Gunpla streaming. We'll see what happens. Anyway, you guys take it easy. Be good. Later.